1, 2, 3.
Let's go. I'm lying here up all night, wondering why. No matter how much I try, I can't get you out of my mind. Was it your laugh? Was it your smile? Was it the fire behind your eyes? Staring at the city lights. Was it your laugh?
Hello, welcome back to our channel. We're doing something a little bit different. These are our top 10 things we love / hate about living in Calgary. So we're going to start it off with a positive, and this is something that we discovered from landing in Calgary, is that number one, the locals are super friendly. Calgarians are probably some of the nicest people in the world.
Absolutely everyone that we've met.
From like the immigration officers, since we got off, like, you know, we've travelled quite a bit in our time, and immigration officers are terrifying. I always tell Terry not to talk, just answer the questions yes or no, so he doesn't get himself into trouble or anything like that. But they were so friendly, and yeah, it's been like that from my work colleagues to people in our apartment block to people in the shops, like paying you compliments.
Landlords that whenever we're viewing properties, all that kind of thing.
Want to meet up for drinks after, and yeah, people like will compliment your nails. Yeah, everyone here is just so nice, and they're always more than happy to kind of help you in any way that they possibly can.
It's always the first thing they say whenever you say that you're kind of new to Calgary. The first thing they say is, "Oh, well, welcome." You know, it's kind of, they just make sure that, yeah, that's the first thing they say. It's really strange.
It is really strange, but because to begin with we were like, oh, this is because we're in tourist areas, we were in hotels, we were in airports. We're like, of course, it's part of their job is to be nice to people. But no, it's been like that the entire time. Like, I think, well, we've met maybe 1 or 2 people that don't fit that profile, but everyone else has it's just been consistently really nice. Number 2 is another positive. So again, we come from Ireland. I come from a small town. You come from a small town. Yeah. So our knowledge of the world is quite insular, I guess is the right word. And we have really enjoyed like the multicultural food offering that Calgary has brought. We didn't expect it whenever we moved here, but you can get anything from Korean food, Japanese food, Greek, like you name it, there's a restaurant here, and it's a good restaurant. Halal Guys just opened in Calgary, and it was a huge opening. They had lines all down the street, so it's definitely a very foodie city.
Yeah. Well, even just if you consider 17th Avenue, which is just kind of like the restaurant district, you have Mexican, Korean, Chinese, like you say, Greek, you have just a little bit of everything. You have Italian, American, vegan.
Yeah, lots and lots of vegan restaurants too. Like, I go into a restaurant and I never have to go to the sides, which is what I had to do back home. So it's always like trying to make a meal out of sides. Like, oh, I'll have chips, I'll have vegetables, I'll have salad. And I never enjoyed eating out, but here it's not like that. Even food courts, like the mall food court, if you fancy a burger, you can get a burger. If you fancy poutine, you can get poutine. If you fancy Greek, you can get Greek. If you fancy pho, like, you can get pho. Like, it's everything you could possibly want is there. So yeah, no, we're very excited about the food offering. And some good breakfast places too, and brunch places. So there's definitely a good range, and they're open pretty late also. And we've been definitely taking full advantage of Uber Eats and the likes like that too. Again, living in a small town in Ireland, you didn't have access to that, but since landing we've not had a McDonald's. Not that we had it back home, but like, that's just not an option. We haven't had Domino's or anything like that. It's there's just too many good local eats, and they're constantly opening. So number 3, do you want to take this one?
Well, thanks. The first negative one. Yeah, transport sucks. Public transit in Calgary is just all but non-existent, unless you need to go to 3 or 4 specific parts of the city. The C train has 2 lines. Has a red line and a blue line that run from, they don't even run right to the edge of the city. They run through downtown. If you want to get to downtown, or if you want to get to a couple of malls, that's fine. But if you want to get anywhere else, it's $20, $30 in an Uber. That's the best way to get around, because the trains just aren't fit for purpose. Now they've recently said that there's a third line that's going to be made, or going to start construction towards the end of this year, but even that kind of operates north and south. There's still going to be a huge portion of the southwest of Calgary that just does not have transit.
Yeah, and that's kind of prompted us to buy a car, because you're kind of stuck in a quadrant within the city that you can't really leave or go beyond, and there's just too much of Alberta to go and see, I guess. But there is one good thing about public transport. The C train, there's a few stops downtown that are free, so you don't have to pay to get on the train, and it goes from Kirby straight through to City Hall, so it's a good few stops for if you're trying to navigate your way.
Yeah, probably
downtown.
covers about 10 blocks or so of kind of that downtown area that's just free to travel between, which, yeah, that's one good aspect of it.
Then our next negative, number 4, is car insurance.
Yeah, so the problem is that unless you have had previous insurance in North America or Canada, any no claims discount or anything like that you've built up in the UK or Ireland just doesn't count. So as for all intents and purposes, you're a brand new driver, and regardless of what car we look at, the car insurance quotes have come out the same. So the minimum... Sorry, go ahead.
It's not just your experience driving that is counted, it's also your credit history plays into it too.
Yeah. And again, so we're brand new to the country, so we don't have a credit history. Now, we've been told that the quotes we're getting are wildly over the top, and that they will come down once we have some credit history and once we kind of build up our no claims discount. But it's very difficult to get a insurance quote for anything less than about $4,500 for a year. Which
is crazy, because back home you're paying £200-300 a year.
Yeah, max. Basically a monthly insurance payment here is about the same as what we were paying for a full year back home.
Yeah, and it's kind of been off-putting, but with public transport and just what we want people to do and see, we want to go to the mountains, we want to hike, like, it's something that we're just going to have to swallow the cost of, unfortunately. And
it is something that then the price in theory will go down after the first year once we pay that anyway, so it's kind of get it out of the way now so that we can start earning those lower premiums, hopefully. Number
5, essentials are expensive in Calgary. So whenever we say essentials, we mean things like grocery shopping. So a punnet of tomatoes is $6. A cucumber is $5. Like, that is wild prices. There's some things that are a little cheaper, but for the most part, everything's expensive. Spices are expensive. Like, to buy like oregano is $5 for like a small pack. Ginger is like $8 or $9. Like, it's little things like that. Where back home you'd walk into Asda and buy it for 80p. It's crazy expensive. Fruit's really expensive. Like strawberries, for a punnet of strawberries, again you're paying $6. Washing detergent's expensive, and
sure.
Also,
and a part of the food then as well, is it because of the the different pesticides and things like that they use in North America, you kind of want to lean towards organic where you can, because it's just
for things you're going to eat the skin on. Yeah. It's and then not even just grocery shopping, like phones are expensive here too. So a standard phone contract that would, I guess, equate to what you'd have back home with 3 for about £20, here is like $50. Which is, it all adds up, and if you've got that, you've got your grocery shopping, and you have like car repayments, car insurance, and rent is it's expensive here too. Like, you're not going to get anywhere for less than $1,000 in Calgary to rent, and around $1,000 you're probably getting like a bedsit, like a 1 bedroom if you're outside the city, but again you don't have public transport to get in, and things like that. Like in apartment blocks, you have to pay then for a parking space, and you have to pay for your internet, which again is another expense, and electricity, and you pay for water here, which we don't back home. So yeah, there's a lot of little things that we kind of didn't expect, and hidden fees. That's your gripe, the hidden fees. So you buy a bottle of milk and it says it's $5 for the bottle of milk, and by the time you go up and check out and pay your bottle fee and recycling fees, it's like $8 for a bottle of milk.
Well, the same as everywhere in North America, there's added tax, but in Alberta you just pay general sales tax, which is 5%. They don't have a provincial tax on top of that, which the other provinces do. But yeah, you're paying extra fees. You pay up front for bottle recycling charges, for electronic recycling charges, things like that. You're, on the cost of a TV, you're paying an extra $40 for a recycling charge plus your 5% tax on whatever the ticket price is.
Yeah, so there is just a lot of things to kind of take into consideration if you're moving to Canada, and Canada-wide. It's just you need to have a good base of savings, a good foundation there to move, because it is expensive. It is an expensive country, and the cost of living is high. Wages are a little higher, but not high enough to justify.
Guess if you were to convert them into sterling, it's probably around about £10, £11 maybe per hour is the minimum wage here, so it's a little bit higher than back home, but yeah, the cost of living is a lot higher as well. And
number 6 is shop around for apartment deals. We were shocked that you can get offers and deals on apartments. So if you do your due diligence and really research apartments, quite a few of them offer things like 1 month free rent, move-in bonus, 2 months free rent, free internet. The apartment we live in, we actually don't pay for our internet or our TV. It came as a package deal because we signed up in, I think it was like a summer special or something like that, where you got your Telus free and we got 1 month's rent free. So there is some perks to some apartment blocks, not to all. But
yeah,
if you
I think it's downtown Calgary seems to be quite competitive for the rental market. So there's a lot of the buildings have to provide some sort of incentive, and that's the kind of thing that you get quite regularly. It's not uncommon to see, $1,500 for rent, but that's all of your utilities built into that, and you don't have any additional bills if that's the sort of place that you might want to go for.
Yeah, and that's what ours is. Our heating, our water, our Telus, and our rent are all one, but we have to pay for our electricity on top of that, and then our parking space on top of that again. But yeah, definitely shop around. In our apartment block too, there's like a lot of little perks. We have like a gym, we have a movie room, there's like a games room, there's loads of little things like that. So if you do shop around, and kind of weigh up the price of like a gym membership and things like that to see what works best for you. But yeah, there are deals to be had in Calgary for apartments. And then moving on, once you buy or rent that apartment, you have to furnish it. So one thing that I made a point of whenever we moved here, because we sold our house back home, sold all of our furniture, and we're back to not basically trying to build a life for yourself out here. I was like, I do not want IKEA furniture. I have nothing against IKEA furniture. It's just for the same price you could get decent, sturdy furniture that could see you a decade. So that was our premise whenever we started shopping for furniture. We did not go anywhere near IKEA.
Yep.
So we did shop around, and we found that there's Ashley Furniture here. There's Pottery Barn. There's quite a few different Strut Tube. There's a few different furniture shops, local furniture shops that we went into, but they were all not our style at all.
Yeah.
So the style of Calgary, I don't know if it's Alberta, we haven't been able to look at shops beyond. It's been very like Western, kind of like 90s, I don't know, like stuff that your granny would have in her house, just no shape to anything. It's just very basic run-of-the-mill furniture. So there's no Scandi furniture here, beautifully designed contemporary modern pieces. And yeah, that sucks, because we've had to compromise quite a lot, and well, maybe not so much for you, but I've had to compromise on like my vision and what I wanted to create here, and trying to mirror what we had back home. Like, I loved our home back home. Like, we collected a lot of stuff, and we really built that into an aesthetic that really suited us. But here, unfortunately, our bed is IKEA. We had to like bite the bullet. We went to IKEA and bought all of our furniture. We had ordered beautiful Scandi stuff from a store here called Strut Tube, but after a month we hadn't heard anything back from them. So we went into the store. We're like, we've ordered a bed, we've ordered a sofa, can you tell us when these are going to arrive? And that was June, and the woman looked up in the computer and she was like, oh, they're due to leave our depot in September.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can't sleep on the floor until September. We can't, like, we were sitting on the floor in our sitting room every night. It was miserable. And we were both working from home too at that point. So we were working on the floor constantly. It was just, like, we were grumpy and miserable, and we ended up cancelling the order and going to IKEA and just getting everything in IKEA. I guess just kind of keep your expectations realistic whenever it comes to shopping for furniture here, and IKEA is your friend. Facebook Marketplace is also a good place to find furniture. So moving on to number 8, and it is a positive. So
your favourite part of the city.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been in creative industries for the last decade, so that's really important to me, and that's what brought us here. And any of the research we've done in Calgary, and again, this is why we're doing this video, so we can kind of show hopefully another side of Calgary to what people may think, or what the stereotype is. We thought we were going to Cowtown, which is what it's called, so we were expecting to get off the plane and be in Canada's version of Texas, to see cowboys and tumbleweed and I don't know, hay bales, place, yeah, all that kind of stuff, listening to like honky tonk music and Calgary is not like that. Calgary is a hipster city. It's got all the food outlets you could possibly want. It has such a nice vibe to it. There's loads of live music, there's loads of like street events, carnivals, like markets, night markets that happen all the time. And my favourite bit is you cannot walk a block in the city without seeing some gorgeous street art. And whenever I say street art, I mean street art. It's not graffiti. Like, entire buildings are covered in the most beautiful, beautiful illustrations. So like there's birds, there's pandas, like they're all different styles. It's so eclectic, and it just brings such a vibrancy to the city. Yeah,
it's just every sort of exposed bit of brick wall has like some kind of commissioned art piece on it that I guess a lot of them are probably local artists, and they've just been, you know, massive walls that are completely covered with really bright, vibrant art. And
not vandalized. Like, no. They're not, like, they are protected by the locals. It's definitely part of the cityscape within Calgary. So that's what we love to do at nighttime, is just walk around the city and find all these different bits of art. Mm-hmm. So and there's loads of sculpture too. So like, we're still discovering parts of the city that have like hidden wee gems. But yeah, so it's a beautiful, vibrant, hipster, young city. Like, we love it. We absolutely love it. Like, Calgary has stolen our hearts for sure. Coming from Europe, a lot of people say that our cities aren't the cleanest, and I always take offense to that. But whenever you're in Calgary, you kind of realize what a clean city is. And this city is very, very clean. Like, you don't see rubbish on the ground. People don't throw rubbish on the ground. It's clean. It smells clean.
Yeah, it's not even so much as chewing gum on the ground. You just don't see it.
No, people pick up after their dogs. Like, you don't see that kind of stuff around at all. Like, there's definitely a care and consideration and respect for the city. That's been nice, and it's also kind of leads on to a lovely wee fact that we found out before we came to Calgary. We weren't too sure if it's true, but the locals have reinforced that it is in fact true. But Calgary is actually a rat-free city, so they got rid of all the rats in Calgary. So that kind of tells you how clean it is. Like, you're not going to see rubbish bags piled up outside businesses at night time or anything like that. Like, it's a very clean city. And then that moves us on to our final point, and I think again, maybe more so for me, whenever we're moving to Calgary, the one thing that I wanted to research and look up was how safe of a city it was. And whenever we moved here, I told my work colleagues we had to go into quarantine for our first 2 weeks. So whenever we got out of quarantine, our quarantine ended at midnight, and I told my work colleagues, whenever we get out, me and Terry are going to go for a walk in the city, because it's going to be our first time that we're going to see the city. And I was like, do not tell me it's not safe. Like, don't tell me, like, I have to get out. Like, we were crawling the walls at this point, so we did not care what it was going to be like. And they were like, oh no, like, you can walk anywhere in this city. Like, there's no dodgy areas. There's nowhere you need to be careful of. And we were like, okay, we took that with a pinch of salt, because we're like, it's a city. Of course there's going to be kind of dodgy areas. And there isn't downtown. From what we've seen from the areas that we've been in, is you can walk 10, 12, 14 blocks and it doesn't change. The city doesn't change. It doesn't there's nothing that feels unsafe or anything like that. Like,
well, I mean, every couple of blocks it kind of feels like a different part of the city. You know, there's a different vibe, and there's a different, you know, some of the architecture is different in different parts of the city. But as far as from a safety point of view, there's, just nowhere. We haven't seen or encountered anything that makes us feel unsafe anywhere in the city.
No, and there's a lot of police around too, or peace officers.
Yes.
So there's, I don't know if there's a difference between them or not, but some of them say police officer and then some of them say peace officer on bikes around the city. So it's I guess that helps with the safety factor of it. But it's definitely, like, we used to live in Vancouver, and there are certain areas in Vancouver that I would not feel comfortable walking in broad daylight, middle of the day with loads of people around. I would not feel comfortable. But so far we have in our 2.5 months, and as we said, we've been using public transport, so we've been going to areas that we wouldn't have necessarily went to, but we have to because of public transport, and we haven't seen anything that's kind of unnerved us or anything like that. So even
like the local news and stuff like that, there just isn't. You know, there's not the same level of violent crime or anything like that you get in most major cities. It just seems to be, just everywhere seems to be. I mean, it's the weather is the main thing that they talk about in the news. That's the most exciting thing that happens in the city is a thunderstorm. Yeah. You know, you don't get violent crime, as just not to the same extent as you do somewhere else. So I guess that's our 10 things that we love / hate about Calgary, and hopefully you can kind of see that for us it balances more on the love side. You know, just like any city, it's not perfect, or just like any I guess any setup, there's expenses to it. It's, you know, there's good and bad parts to it, so the good definitely outweighs the bad. It's a little bit more expensive, but you get what you pay for. Like, we're living a lifestyle that we would never have got to live back in Ireland, and yeah, we're absolutely loving Calgary. So I guess it'd be nice to revisit this in a year from now to see what we think then. See whether our minds have changed, and that's it. What we thought was an issue and maybe isn't so much. Exactly. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about Calgary or living in Calgary, or if anyone's thinking about moving to Calgary, like, ask away, because I know that's one thing that we've really kind of wished we had someone to lean on moving here, because we've moved to the city with no one. Like, we don't have family here, we don't have friends or anything like that, so it's all been a steep learning curve for us. So definitely lean on us if you're wanting to know anything about the city. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye.